Om Shanti, a greeting of peace to everyone. And at the start of 2026, we're looking forward to what's going to evolve because we'll be honoring 90 years since the Brahma Kumaris started. It was in 1936 that Brahma Baba had his first visions of God as a being of light, but also of the transformation of what he was seeing as the modern world, and the collapse of that, and then beyond that, a better world, a world in which there was truth, love, and justice. And yes, the whole story of bringing soul back into society, or even before that, bringing soul consciousness back into human awareness, has been one of the main pillars of the work of the Brahma Kumaris and the teachings that came through Brahma Baba. And what we found is that all over the world, because we now exist in 120 countries, but I think we've had programs and events in more countries than that, probably across the world, with maybe a few little islands here and there left out. But generally speaking, it's a message that has been accepted across the world, but only by a limited few. And I say that just thinking about the vast population of the world. So in terms of numbers, if I were to say there's about 1 million people who are dedicated to following the teachings that have come through Brahma Baba, and then there's multi-thousands who still enjoy meditation and come to us from time to time, but about 1 million people across the world who actually follow these teachings. So it's a drop in the ocean of the vast human population. So I won't exaggerate and say, oh yes, society is changing. But what I do see is that there are more and more people who are beginning to think, are we going in the right way? Is there a different turn that we could take? And one of the comments that I heard last year from the president of Iceland, and I think she got it from some Zen guru, but she said something like, all the problems of the world that we see around us have been human created. They didn't just happen. It's humans who've created them. And the only way out is to go in. And so that in a way sums it up. Many people are beginning to think that we have to go inside and bring about a change of heart, a change of perception, a change of awareness, a change of consciousness totally. And only then will we be able to sort out what's going on out there. So I would say that the message that came through Brahma Baba has been reaching into not just all the corners of the world, but also the hearts of many, many people across the world. I list a few things that I think have contributed to the success of the Brahma Kumaris. The first is the body of knowledge, the information that has been imparted to us through the instrument of Brahma Baba. And within that whole sphere of understanding, who am I, who is the divine, what is karma philosophy, how does the cycle of time rotate, these are some of the basic teachings that we've been studying and practicing for a long time. And within this body of knowledge, I had many, many questions when I first started to hear these things, but I also found that all my questions were being answered. And so when there's a strong foundation of spiritual understanding, and dare I say truth, spirituality, truth can be in many colors and many forms, but definitely when there's a body of knowledge that is absolutely stable in that awareness of these spiritual facts of life, then I think that the foundation being strong means that people can come, people can go, but the organization carries on. And yes, we've had many come, we've had many stay, we've had some people go. But the most important thing is that Brahma Baba himself, who started the organization, and the amazing work he did is really beyond measure. You cannot count it in any way. not just a number of centers or number of people touched, but the quality of what he did and how he served was incredible. And so most organizations would revolve around one human being. But Brahma Baba always made sure that our connection was with the divine, with the supreme. And so he never allowed us to treat him as a guru. He would say, yes, I'm an instrument, I can be your spiritual father, but the teacher is the one. The Father of the unlimited number of all souls is one. So because he always redirected our energy towards the Supreme, I think that even with his transition in 1969, we carry on. The other thing that Brahma Baba also did, and it was very far-sighted of him, I have to say, he chose many, many young women out of the gathering that had collected by 1937, it was around 350 people who were with him, and he was teaching morning and evening. And out of that number, he chose 8 women who would be the leaders of the trust that he had set up, and a number of them were young women. And so just until recently, in fact, just April last year, our last person who was one of the leaders, the chief of the Brahma Kumaris in 2025, they carried the flame so beautifully, so accurately, without any adulteration of any type coming in or any corruption coming in. And so that was his farsightedness, but part of his vision, and so it was an insight that came from the divine. Part of that had been to see a world of justice and truth and equality and harmony. And when he reflected on all of this, he realized that the world in which he was living, which was in the subcontinent of India, in an area that was Hyderabad, not the one in South India, but the one today in Sindh in Pakistan. So he saw that women were very much second-class citizens, and he knew that to have justice and truth and equality, all the good words that we use, there could only be justice if the gender gap could be removed and there could be equality between men and women. And so his focus was on training young women in particular, but women generally, and training them to be leaders and teachers. And so the continuity of that has been a tremendous factor. But again, it diverted attention away from himself as one leader and teacher, and every center across the world is run by women. And yes, we have men in very capable positions of responsibility, including in Mount Abu, of course, but across the world there are exceptions to the rule. But generally it's women who lead the way, and women who have been the teachers, and even today that role of leadership continues in the hands of women. And so I think that ensuring that there would be that continuity, but also there would be a foundation for equality, has made a huge, huge difference to the success of the organization and the way things are being carried forward. The first core group in the days of Karachi and later even Mount Abu simply focused on inner transformation. And that was absolutely vital, because they then became the pillars that would support the growth of the organization further on. And so that foundation of Raj Yoga, of meditation and silence and self-transformation through spirituality, all that was the foundation. And as we reached out in the cities of India and further across the world, what we were finding was that there were many, many professionals who were coming. And these professionals, of course, carried an expertise that was very much part of their life. And it was their thought that they'd like to serve people of their ilk, people from their background, people from their career. And so they were thinking of how to reach out to people and involve them with spirituality. And the guidance that came through Rama Baba and through his instruments was that, yes, it was time for another phase. And if we wanted to serve the professionals, then can we also show them how spirituality works in their lives? And that can then be a transition to not just a group of dedicated people who surrender their life to service of humanity by coming and staying in a center, but people living in the world out there, people continuing with their careers and their professions and serving the world through their professional expertise. And so it started with the medical wing. Many doctors were coming who themselves felt that meditation was helping them to cope with the stress in their lives. Many teachers were coming. And so these two branches of society, very much the caring professions of society, took it on themselves, the people who were coming to the Brahma Kumaris and following the principles of purity and diet and making meditation a part of their life. They were following all these themselves. And as they would speak to their colleagues and friends, what they found was that those people also were interested, but they would also like to share their skills in terms of serving the community. And so that was the evolution of all of this. And then I think we now have 20 plus what we call the wings of the Brahma Kumaris. And so the medical and education wing came very early on. The jurist wing came on, the sports wing came on, women's wing, youth wing. So it was a gradual development, a very organic development. And of course, these were the people then serving their own community. And sisters at the center would then be invited to share spiritual concepts with the group. And gradually it became more and more structured so that every wing has its own area of service, but they bring in Brahma Kumaris and the Brahma Kumari teachings to help them in whatever area it is they're serving in. So the different wings have been the instruments to reach out and serve people in the community, in society, which of course has meant that time, money, energy, skills, education, all of this is being channeled in a very constructive way to serve people, to create a better world. I think that the Brahma Kumaris offers the inner solution to all the problems of the world today, whether it is the environmental issues, whether it's polarization in society, which is the escalating continually, whether it's terrorism, so many of the issues of society that are not restricted to one part of the world, but they are global. And what we're finding is that the foundation of all of these factors is that people have lost touch with their own inner being, which carries all the values of the individual and, of course, society. I understood something very interesting recently. In 1974, a long time ago, Jagdish Pai from the Brahma Kumaris, our senior author and researcher and brilliant teacher, had said to me before he came to London, he was coming to London with a delegation, and he said to me, can you contact people who have a historical background, historians who are interested in how things happen in the world? And he mentioned Arnold Toynbee. And it must have been beginner's luck in a sense, because I myself had only been practicing Raj Yoga for a few years at that point. But what happened was that I wrote to many people, typing out with two fingers. And Arnold Toynbee replied he was interested to meet Jagdish Pai, so I had the fortune of accompanying him. And this person has actually written about the rise and fall of 21 different civilizations. And he had a beautiful, very profound conversation with Jagdish Pai, and they spoke about history, linear, history, cyclical, and he understood that whole concept of a cycle rather than linear history. Because from his study in history and the rise and fall of civilizations, what he'd seen was that you have a leader or a few who are together, who have very high ideals and principles, and they follow through those values in their lives and they set a tradition. But with succeeding generations, then those original qualities and values get lost somewhere along the way. And through that loss of values and integrity, civilization crumbles and it's gone until there's time for a new leadership and people again with a strong set of values that can come in. So just take a look around at what's happening today and what we're seeing. We're not seeing the rise of civilization, we're seeing the decline. And the basic causes, the Zen master who said, inside means solving problems outside. Where do values lie? Values lie in the spirit. They don't lie in anything external, not my hands or my feet or the color of my skin. They lie in the inner being, the spiritual being that I am, the soul. And when I'm aware of this, then in soul consciousness, soul identity and awareness, I can tap into those inner core values that I carry: peace and love and truth and joy and purity. And not only do I connect with those, but I'm able to allow these to be expressed in my life. My behavior, my activity, my language, all of that follows a very different mode of conduct. And what is happening today is, again, people across the world, individuals, leaders, coming to this awareness and recognizing that the fall of civilization is through loss of values, and the new civilization that's waiting to emerge is going to be based on values. So I see that this is what's going on, and how spirituality and the values that spirituality releases within the individual are the foundation for a better world. I see various challenges that are coming in front of us, generally for everyone, but also, of course, for the Brahma Kumaris. One is the tragedy that's unfolding because of environmental issues that have been neglected or ignored or dismissed as being fraudulent. Amazing. We're seeing what nature is doing, what's happening with nature, and yet it's being dismissed totally in some cases, in many cases, I would say, actually. So yes, people are facing a huge amount of trauma, loss of livelihood, loss of homes, loss of beloved ones. It's a real tragedy that's unfolding. And then, of course, there's the challenges that there are so many different political masters, and people really don't know which way to turn. And everybody claims that they're the strong ones, they're the true ones, they're the ones who can guide the world to peace. And of course, then we see that that's not what's happening. So the challenges of the world are the challenges that we are also facing. And within all of this, I see that on a personal, individual level, when I have understood that I can draw power from the one above, the source of divinity, the source of purity, peace, truth, and love, when I draw that power within myself, I have developed my own capacity and resilience to deal with all of these issues. And when we come together, not just one, but 5, 50, 500, wherever it may be, however big or small, then that community forms a very strong foundation for others to take benefit from. For example, within the medical arena, we see how, on the one side, we see the wonders of medical technology, no doubt about that at all. Every year there's new advances, amazing. But we also see then the number of illnesses growing, number of diseases growing. So there seems to be some sort of imbalance here where we are not able to cope with mental disease, for example, mental health illness. So what I'm seeing is that where there are individuals, just one example, the medical area, where there are individuals who have spiritual consciousness and awareness, there'll be a support for people in that particular arena. And people will find that the answers they're getting and the support they're getting from a person who has the external skills, but also the inner spiritual understanding, is going to be able to carry them through these very dangerous and uncertain times that lie ahead. And so I see how the organization as a whole is made up of the components of the different centers, the different in different countries, the different individuals, but each individual playing their own role in the way that they've been trained to and know best how to in terms of their education background. Everyone's playing a role in which they're giving that support to society to carry society through these very difficult times that lie ahead. So it's not how will my organization survive, it's a different mindset. What I have learned and what has benefited me, how can I use that to serve people around me, wherever it is I live, whatever work it is I'm engaged in. Firstly, I know that most people would agree that the essential quality of the human spirit is of goodness. And for those who believe in the divine, we would feel that we are a creation of the divine. And so definitely the Creator is there to support and guide the creation at all times, but especially when there are times of challenges like now. More people are open to turning towards the divine to take that support and help. It was like when it was COVID times, because there was such a scene of disaster outside, and of course everybody was isolated, but more people turned to Google and other engines to find out, but what is prayer? What is meditation? Is there a God? So that search for higher understanding, a different concept of life, is there, but maybe it takes a trigger of external situations where it's like we are boxed in, we don't know where to turn. So then we realize maybe we turn inside and go up above. And so I think that this is happening more and more. Meditation was sidelined originally. Well, originally not in the ancient past, but when I first started to practice meditation and then to teach meditation, meditation was dismissed as being something on the fringe. And today, that's no longer the case. People are recommending meditation to each other. It's no more something that you do undercover or in a closet. It's something that you talk about and you share with your friends. Yes, I meditate, and this is my experience. And so what's happening is that people are more and more open to spiritual understanding, more and more aware of the need for empowering the self, the inner being, through silence, through meditation. And so it's coming to a point where people intuitively know that there is something more that they can do to help themselves, and that is to go in their inner world and experience the beauty and silence and allow the goodness to emerge again. And some, of course, wanting to know more about God, who is the one. And the Brahma Kumaris' understanding of God is very simple. The source, the being of light, infinitesimal, but holding within that being is the ocean. the ocean of all positive attributes. And so as people move in that direction more and more, maybe because of the external circumstances being very difficult, you're going to find that yes, there is a better world ahead, and it just simply means allowing the goodness of each one to emerge and be expressed in our life and our behavior. And especially with environmental issues and the questioning of the status quo, young people have always played a role in that. And especially today, they say, well, what is the legacy that you people are leaving us with? Is it desertification? Is it just extreme climate? What is it that you've done to our world? And so they are also looking for answers. And I think that many, many young people are understanding that the answers lie in the spiritual domain rather than the blame, complain attitude in terms of what's happening on the external level. But each soul can make a difference and definitely contribute towards a better world.